And we'll say good morning to our viewers here in Nigeria and across the continent, wherever you might be watching us from. Thank you for stopping by on the Tuesday morning here on Breakfast Central. As always, we have the next 2 hours to share with you some of the biggest conversations, news and current affairs here in Nigeria, bits and pieces in other parts of the continent. I am Osaogi Ogbawa.
And I am Olive Emodi. I'll be very excited to get to social media to see what you're talking about. Godfatherism has been trending for the past 24 hours. Or even more, and that's of course making reference to what's happening in River State, and some have also mentioned Edo State, and some have even mentioned structures in Anambra State dating as far back as Chris Ngige, Peter Obi, and a number of these conversations will be had when we look at what Nigerians are saying. But before then, let's bring in Dashin Usman, who joins us for Breakfast Headlines. Good morning, Dashin.
Good morning, Olive. Good morning, Osaoge. It's nice to be here with you guys.
All right, Dashin, let's talk about the story I'm sure that you've been following, as the whole country has been following. Of course, student who was unfortunately bullied, her videos were posted, and now it would seem that this student of Lead International School has sued the school in Abuja for 500 million naira and is asking for a public apology. Do you think that this is fitting?
Who is she asking for the public apology from? The school or the girl that actually bullied? All right, yeah, I think that's actually quite fair. You know, I really don't know what's happening or what's happening in our schools these days. It's, you know, from one thing or the other. I hope this actually serves as deterrent to other schools. You know, just recently, I saw a story of a 4-year-old boy who actually died in school because he choked to death. You know, I don't know what were the teachers doing. Where were they? What was happening while he was choking? And, you know, in recent times, in recent years, we've actually seen, you know, stories of students dying in school from one issue to another. So I think this would actually serve as deterrent. A public apology isn't too much. And this is actually what you get when you decide to, you know, employ people who are just, who just want to be teachers, you know, just to survive. The economy has made it really difficult for, you know, people to actually get jobs. So most people will just settle to, you know, to be teachers.
I think that's one angle. The other angle would be that there's a culture that we've pushed, a culture of people seeing it as corporal punishments being accepted as a form of discipline. Bullying is not something that started today. A number of us have either experienced bullying in one form or another in our different schools. So many people would agree that you need to hold the school accountable. You need to hold them accountable to ensure that, I mean, we set a precedent for other schools so that you know that if a child is bullying in your school and nothing is done about it, you and your staff, and in fact the whole school, has a lot to risk, you know, if this isn't curtailed. We need to pay extra attention to our students, whilst the parents also have a role to play looking at, because you have to go back and
you also know that, you know, there are other incidences where the child doesn't even get to report the matter because he's either being threatened by the bully.
Yes.
Or
so there are many that go unreported. That's why I'm happy that this one, at least we have evidence. It's come out to the public. The public has seen it. Because for everyone that goes public, there's most likely 10 others that we don't see or hear about because there's no evidence to prove. So at least people know that if it's not taken as seriously as it should be taken, you stand to lose a lot. Not just in terms of your reputation. Parents will pull their students out of your school, and you have a possibility of having a court suit slammed against you.
I agree, and I think that for me is the most important aspect, you know, in all of this. As much as, you know, we want, you know, of course, Nigerians want justice for the victim, you know, in this situation. I think that we've had too many incidents where we have failed to get schools to accept their responsibility, you know, to the children. You know, whatever argument that people have, you know, the same way they say cars are parked at owner's risk, you know, when you put your cars outside. You know, it's not the same thing when I leave my child in your care. And that is in day schools or in boarding schools. You know, yes, it might be, you know, might have had a long culture of abuse, you know, in boarding schools and the likes, but it doesn't take away the responsibility of the school to ensure the safety and security of every child that is left in their care. And so we've had too many incidents, you know, where children suffer some type of abuse, even death. Yeah. And we do not get to see the schools actually take responsibility or own up for where they may have erred in protecting these children. They obviously cannot be, you know, there at the same time, or they can't have, you know, their eyes on every single student at the same time. But there's ways that schools should be held responsible for the safety of every child. I remember there was a story of a young girl who was electrocuted, I believe, here in Lagos. And many other incidents like that, that you realize that the school seems to just want to rope itself out of it. They don't want to be involved with any of the responsibility of protecting that child. And I feel it's bad. It's very bad. So I hope that this is, an eye-opener, that the school should understand that you are equally as responsible for the safety of that child as any other person, who's responsible for this child. And you should never be left out of the conversation. This constant thing that we do where they maybe settle out of court or, find a way to, figure out the case to not involve themselves, is completely wrong. Schools should take responsibility. If you're charging that, type of school fees for a child, you should take responsibility for the safety of that child. Just my thoughts.
Yes, let's not also forget that there's the African mentality, where even when, teachers are passing and they see two students, fighting, they're like, don't worry, just leave them, it'll make them strong. And that's actually what we grew up with. It'll make them be able to defend themselves better. Just allow them. There's nothing bad in two children fighting it out. A lot of African parents, a lot of African adults actually think this way. They have this mentality.
Well, I mean, you've said it, Osage has said it. It's important that this conversation, yes, there's a whole lot that culture and tradition and our custom has to play in all of this. But it's also very important, that we set a precedence for how we want to attend to issues that are seen as bad, right? Because the effects of bullying are very long-lasting. This girl who has been bullied, the effect, we don't see, everyone is talking about it, but we don't see the trauma she has to deal with. A number of them grew up feeling very timid, not able to stand up for themselves, not able to speak in public places because of how much their confidence level has been trampled upon. So there are psychological effects of bullying, and as a society, it's our responsibility to ensure that we, on our own, bring up our children well so that they don't go outside and become tyrants in society. And then as a school, as a society, hold the school to account because the school does have responsibilities. Definitely. But we, of course, will be following up with that story. Dashen, you'll be bringing us breakfast headlines shortly, but let's share our top stories first.
All right, this morning, Rivers Assembly affirms Dagogo as commissioner.
And away from the update in that regard, EFCT set to arraign Emefiele over Naira redesign policy, a policy that a number of Nigerians criticized last year.
And President Tinubu launches education campaign. Tell you a little bit more about that.
Peter Obi meets Atiku Saraki spark possible merger. And that's one of the stories we're going to be looking at as well.
And also the newspaper front pages. What are the stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning?
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. Now we begin the news at this time in West Africa, where Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, Delta State Chapter, on Monday joined their counterparts across the country to picket the Benin Electricity Company, Asaba office, South Nigeria, over hike in electricity tariff. The union members, led by the state chairman, Trade Union Congress, barricaded the BEDC premises in Asaba, the state capital, with placards of different inscriptions calling for reversal of the electricity tariff. The Edo State Labour Party chapter has accused the state government of interfering in the affairs of the party in the state. The governorship candidates of the party warned officials of the state government to stay clear from the party ahead of the upcoming governorship poll in the state, saying party faithful will refuse to be distracted ahead of the upcoming governorship elections. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has vowed that his administration will set up a panel of inquiry to probe the last administration. Fubara spoke on Monday after inaugurating the Gogo Iboroma as the Attorney General of the state following Iboroma's screening and confirmation by the Victor Okojumbo-led House of Assembly. Now to security matters, several students abducted from the Confluence University of Science and Technology in Kogi State have been rescued by local hunters and security agents. Kingsley Femi Fanwo, the Commissioner of Information and Communications in the state, confirmed this while speaking on News Central's show The Conversation, and he also said he cannot confirm the current location of the former governor, Yahaya Bello. To health matters, the governor of Delta State, South Nigeria, Sheriff Oborewari, has assured the federal government of the state government's partnership and commitment to the growth and development of the health sector in the state. Governor Oborewari made the pledge at the formal opening of the College of Nursing Sciences, Onitsha-Oku, Anyocha North Local Government Area, satellite campus of the Federal Medical Center in Asaba. Still in West Africa, the first day of the 3i Africa Summit ended on Monday with the first of the 3 days in Accra, Ghana, promising inclusivity in the fintech and digital space. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo disclosed that Ghana has signed a memorandum of understanding with the ECOWAS Bank of Investment and Development to secure a $200 million facility for lending to small and medium enterprises. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Osauge and Olive.
Thank you very much. Of course, the developments continue to emerge in Rivers State. We are seeing, of course, new commissioners, new appointments in the as Commissioner for Justice in Rivers State, and of course, the speculation, or at least it's not a speculation. He said it himself that they're going to be probing the previous 8 years of Nyesom Wike, and a lot of people are looking forward to seeing how this plays out. There's those who have mentioned the fact that he was a part of that government, so I don't know what exactly they're going to probe, but once again, very interesting developments in Rivers State.
See how it goes. Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see. Thanks a lot for stopping by. We'll see you again at 9. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Let's quickly share, of course, go back now into Breakfast Central and get into our top stories.
President Bola Tinubu has launched a campaign to promote inclusive education, skill development, and gender equity. The campaign tagged We Are Equal is an initiative of the Organization of African First Ladies for Development and seeks to promote and has also been launched in about 15 African countries, focusing on health, education, economic empowerment, and gender-based violence. Amadine Oyi reports.
The launch of the campaign focusing on education with an aim at giving young girls a second chance was widely attended by many. The First Lady of Nigeria says that the current rate of girls drop out from school should be a source of concern.
The alarming rate of school dropouts among girls are a stark reminder of the need for alternative solutions in their educational pursuit. The consequences of these challenges are profound, affecting not only their individual lives, but also attendant socio-economic implications to our nation.
President Bola Tinubu, while speaking at the launch, says that government must live up to its responsibilities and create opportunities for all citizens, especially through education.
We must continue to create opportunities for all our children to access quality education without leaving anyone behind, particularly the girl child. We must engender a society where everyone has the same opportunity, regardless of who they are, because doing that leads to a stronger and more peaceful and developed society for all of us.
He adds that the program will help young girls refocus their educational pursuits, giving them another opportunity at learning. The First Lady also added that the program will also give the girl child an opportunity to learn without discrimination.
We cannot afford to squander the potentials and talents of half of our population. The program not only recognizes the inherent potential within every girl child, but also offers a tailored educational approach that resonates with their unique circumstances.
This initiative offers a second chance to young girls who might have dropped out of school to be able to further their education and fulfill their dreams.
The program was initiated by the African First Ladies and aims to advance gender equality and narrow the gender gap across the continent. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Thank you very much, Amadine Uyi, for that report. There's a long way that we need to go when we're talking about, using the hashtag We Are Equal and pushing for education, campaigning for education in Nigeria. We've seen that the number of out-of-school children has grown astronomically. Back in the day, it used to be 10.5, and then it increased to 13.5. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We're seeing here, even if we bring it back to Nigeria, the number of young people who are now trying to make ends meet. So they're trying to provide for the basics. They don't have access to the basics. They can't even feed. And these are the people that are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow, when we haven't even made a decent enough life for them to thrive in today's world. So these are very important summits to have. But beyond the summits, because we've been talking about these things for the longest time, and Osage, we find a lot of conferences happening. Even on International Women's Day, International Children's Day, a lot of these conferences are happening. And I cannot downplay the importance of conferences, because sometimes in getting a long-lasting change, you must start conversations. But we need to see it being put into practicality. It's not enough to say we need to bridge the gap, we are equal, this and that. How are we putting that into effect? How are we making that a practical scenario? Are we seeing more young people getting back into school? Are we seeing opportunities made available for more young African children? I think these are more of the indices that we use to measure the success rates of a number of these conferences.
Yeah, I agree. And like you mentioned, the We Are Equal initiative. It's not new. It's been on for a bit. And of course, a lot of African First Ladies always have their ways with which they step in to also assist with governance. With these initiatives. Right from the days of Stella Obasanjo, all the way down to what we currently have, Remi Tinubu. Everyone has had a role to play, not just in Nigeria, but also in the different parts of the continent. But these are also, centered around or linked with certain SDGs, that, have a certain time frame. The question really is, how much has been achieved with the different time frames, like you've asked, the goals that were set in 1999 and 2000 and 2005. With regards inclusivity, with education, with gender equity, with IDPs and the likes. How much improvement have we seen? And so we might have conferences every 6 months, every 3 months, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I hope that they also have adequate analysis to show progress reports.
Oh, absolutely.
How much has improved. How many of the girl child numbers have reduced, in the out-of-school children, list. How many more female children, have been able to gain access to quality education, in society in the last couple of years through these investments, so it's important.
I mean, you've asked a very key question, because it's not enough to put these goals. The essence of goals is to be able to measure the metrics of your progress. Yeah. So if we're talking about these United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 2030 is the point we're looking at. So 2030 is just around the corner. We're already in 2024. What's the possibility of us achieving these 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030? It's not looking very likely. Right? How much progress have we made? If we start to outline all the goals from goal 1 to goal 17, we're looking at zero poverty, hunger, no zero poverty and zero hunger, and we're looking at climate and looking at gender equality. Believe gender equality is goal 5. Looking at all these goals and seeing how much progress we've made. Yes, they will tell you that since this is surrounding gender equality, they would explain that a number of things have set us back. One would be COVID-19, and the effect of COVID-19 set us apart. Before, it was said that it would take about 150 years to close the gender gap. With the influx of COVID-19, it pushed us further back from that deadline. Now there's also the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the effects it's had on the continent. So there's a lot of struggles we've had to deal with. But we must be honest with ourselves and say, what have we been doing so far? Has it been working? Is it maybe time to change our approach? Is it time to change our tactics to ensure that even if we're not able to get to goal 2030, we're not able to make it but at least we're a lot further from where we're coming from by 2030.
Absolutely. But I mean, it should be encouraged, regardless of what, side of the political divide anybody is. These are things that should be encouraged. But, just to quickly mention, yes, the focus may, be the girl-child, education. But of course, it's been launched in 15 different countries, like we said earlier. And of course, it focuses on health, education, economic empowerment, and gender-based violence. So it's, it's a much broader spectrum of events, concerning, the We Are Equal campaign. And we will continue to follow it and see where it leads. Let's take the conversation away from the girl-child and, of course, the We Are Equal campaign and talk about other things. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, will on Wednesday, tomorrow, arraign the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, for approving the printing of 684.5 million naira at the rate of 18.96 billion naira. In a 4-count charge, this being the third of court cases instituted by the EFCC or the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation against him, Emefiele is charged for disobeying the direction of the law with intent to cause injury to the public during his implementation of the Naira swap policy in the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari.
And the anti-graft agency also accused Emefiele of unlawfully approving the withdrawal of 124.8 billion naira from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, CRF, of the Federation. He was also accused of abusing his office by approving a contract of the acquisition of 43 vehicles, totaling 1.2 billion from 2018 to 2020. On April 8, 2024, the EFCC also arraigned the former Apex Bank banker alongside one Henry Omoile before Justice Rahman Oshodi of the Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja, Lagos, for an alleged $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion naira fraud. He's also pleaded not guilty to the charge. Now, to continue to watch these cases of abuse of office, we are hoping that the law will, of course, take its full course and that it will not take a lengthy time before these cases are tried and judgment is made. On the average, it may take, who knows, anywhere between 1 to 5 years for a number of cases. But we've seen in the most recent time how there's been speedy adjudication of certain cases, right? We've also seen many cases of corruption come in Nigeria, but here are a few of them which were sentenced and actually served jail time. Convicted and served jail time. We have a number of them. But before we come into this list, let's talk about, the time when this was a conversation, right? Godwin Emefiele and the work that he did with the Naira. Why did he do what he did then? And what was the effect? Why he said he did what he did then was because, they had a number, according to them, trillions of Naira were in the public domain and they wanted to bring it back into the vaults of the commercial banks. So they needed to regulate that. And then they put out a process that was not thought through, a process that had occurred in 1984, in the 1980s, and was done badly. Now, if you recall when the Naira redesign policy was done during, in the 1980s, it also, caused unmitigated hardship on Nigerians. There were reports of people sleeping in banks, unable to access their monies. So we talked about this and we're nervous and, concerned about this repeating itself again. Unfortunately, it repeated itself again. We saw this happen in last year. We saw this happen again. And when it did, what happened was that it was a dire situation. Lots of people lost their lives. And the current president thought it was like an opportunity to clip his chances. There were speculations about the current administration thinking that was an opportunity to clip his chances, thinking that it was targeted at him. Both, this one and a number of the policies that were instituted at the time.
He looks pretty sad sitting, in court. A few months ago, he was, the Central Bank of Nigeria governor. But, this is where he is today, which is, of course, the beauty of time and how things change. But it's important to mention, that the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, supported the Naira redesign policy 100%, took pictures with the CBN governor. So obviously, of course, gave his approval of the Naira redesign policy. And so, I don't know that if he should be completely left out of, the conversation, and make it seem like Godwin Emefiele acted, by himself, woke up one morning and decided to redesign the Naira, without federal government approval, without anybody questioning, or approving that decision. It's false. The president did approve that policy, and of course posted it on the Nigerian president's social media handles, saying that it's a go-ahead. I remember that I did mention earlier, a couple of months ago, actually in 2023, that the policy failed. And I completely agree that when a policy fails on that magnitude, somebody should be fired. Whether it has got to the state where it is now being seen as a crime that was committed, because of course it's pretty alarming to say that you printed 684 million naira with 18 billion naira. That's completely alarming. But the point is, the policy failed and failed woefully. And even as businesses were crumbling and lives were being lost and people were suffering with the whole failure of this policy, the Nigerian government at that time felt no interest in apologizing or taking responsibility for the failure of that policy. And these are the foundations of the issues that I personally had, and of course not just myself, now a lot of people had with the whole Naira redesign policy. That a policy failed on that magnitude, complete failure of that policy, and of course, it's not just that it failed and it was worse because of the urgency with which it was done and how important it was portrayed as, and the deadlines that were given, to ensure that everybody, of course, switched to Naira. So it failed, and I felt like Governor Emefiele at that point should have been fired. That was the time when he should have lost his job. But of course, it was the tail end of the administration, so maybe they decided to hold on a little longer. And this is, after many, many other incidents, in the Buhari administration, where Governor Emefiele seemed to maybe have gotten things wrong, that once again, maybe should have been fired in those moments. But we weren't under an administration in that period, from 2015 to 2023, we weren't under an administration that lets people go when they're failing at their responsibilities. And that's why we had all the caliber of ministers that were appointed under President Muhammadu Buhari at that time, all of them that were there that weren't fired, including the service chiefs, even as Nigerians begged and clamored for them to be replaced. The Minister of Education, Minister of Sports, right. Minister of Health, there's none that you can say, okay, this one's did exceptionally well and should have stayed there, and that includes the CBN governor. So all of these things were simply the type of government that was run in Nigeria between 2014 and 2023. It's not just a Golden Emefiele thing. It's generally the type of government that was run in that period. So if he has committed, any financial crimes that he has to answer for, 100% he should go through the legal process, right. And ensure that he, has his day in court, and I hope that, it turns out, either good or bad for him. That's really not anybody's problem. But all of these things, the way I see it, are a mirror image of what that administration was. And for those who describe it as the biggest setback to Nigeria's trajectory that the country has ever experienced, you cannot really argue hard, enough with them, because it's pretty obvious that the country, had massive regression between 2014 and 2023.
It was terrible, very, very massive regression. We can't compare the quality of life that we have now to what it was then. And the funny thing is, even at that time, we thought it was bad. But we've seen a decline in the trajectory of the quality of our lives. And then if we go back as recently as last year, the Naira redesign policy, we've spoken at length about it, but a number of these allegations are really strong ones. There are people who would argue that he didn't work in isolation, but then the CBN is supposed to be autonomous, it's supposed to be independent, of the executive and capable of making its own decisions. But the president did seem to, sign off on it, even though, yes, they can make their decisions, but the president was also in support of it. So it's just a lot of drama, and I'm hoping that we can get to the conclusion of the Godwin Emefiele issue, because if we look at how it was handled, it was not handled many would say that it was not handled in a manner that was reflective of an administration that's trying to do the right thing, because one, he was detained without being charged to court for days, for about a number of days, well over, I think, well over 60 days thereabout. I don't want to speculate. I don't know the exact number of days, but I know he was detained for a long time, right? And that's not how things are being done, which is something we see happening here in Nigeria a lot. If two wrongs don't correct a right, if someone has done a wrong, arrest them, but ensure that you have your information, enough information to use to charge them in court. What they're doing right now is what they should have done much earlier. But it feels like they held him down without sufficient evidence, and they said, they are digging. But yes,
it did initially feel like it was a, it was a witch hunt.
Yeah.
It did initially feel that way, but with all those, I think it was clearly spoken about back then, by human rights activists, Femi Falana, everyone, spoke about, the long detention, of Godwin Emefiele, and of course, also
just
the former
sort
EFCC
of like what
chairman.
Nnamdi Kanu.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone pointed those things out back then. And like you've said, if you have a case, take your case to court, and of course go through the right pathways through, in Criminal Justice Act, to prove your case in court. But we will see how things turn out for Godwin Emefiele. Of course, it's a case that will continue to build. This.
And whilst we're not speaking for or against Godwin Emefiele, what we're saying is that it's important that we set a precedent so that anyone who's going to a position of leadership in whatever capacity, whether as a government official, executive, legislature, judiciary, the CBN, whatever leadership position you're going into, that whatever you do there, when you come out, you would have questions to answer. So we need to set a precedent, not just with Godwin Emefiele. We've always said it. There are a number of governors that have questions to answer as well. Bring all of them back, and let's do a lot of digging. Let's do a lot of investigation. But we'll keep talking about this as it progresses, and we'll bring more updates. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, there's more to come.
Welcome back, and now let's go to Rivers State, where the faction of the Rivers State House of Assembly supporting Governor Sim Fubara have screened and confirmed Agogo Israel Iboroma, a senior advocate of Nigeria, as commissioner to serve in the State Executive Council. The House of Assembly, led by Speaker Victor Jumbo, invited Iboroma to appear before the House following a correspondence which, of course, took place in the House.
Iboroma, standing before the House, fielded questions and assured that his allegiance shall be to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Rivers State Governor, and the state, while upholding his oath of office and contributing his professional expertise to further the good governance of the state. Joining us to discuss this development is State Publicity Secretary, PDP, Rivers State Honorable Tambari Sidney Gbara, and former Rivers State Commissioner for Information, Ogbonna Nwuke. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. Let's talk about, I think, is it safe to say congratulations to Rivers State for the new appointment?
Yeah, I think so. What this really proves is that the Rivers State government is on track, and new blood, fresh hands are being injected into the administration in order to attain the very objective of government, which is to serve the people and provide services.
All right. So before we get into the details of this particular story, let's talk about what's been going on in Rivers State. It feels like every day there's a new story or there's a new headline to trend in Rivers State. Over the past 24 hours, the hashtag Godfatherism has been trending on X, with a number of people saying that Siminalayi Fubara is trying to dismantle the structure of Godfatherism in the state, whilst others saying he's trying to bite the finger that fed him. So talk to us about your thoughts regarding the ongoing seeming feud between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the past governor, who is now the commissioner of the FCT, Minister of the FCT, I beg your pardon, former Governor Nyesom Wike. What's your thought about the relationship and the seeming ongoing feud between both of them?
I think that it is regrettable that we have a situation like this. When you are looking at the relationship between both men and politics. But the Rivers people, I must say, are unimpressed by the unfolding circumstance, which kind of creates the impression that we are a state where stability has taken French leave. But beyond that, I believe that this should not happen at this time. If you take a horse to the stream, you can't force it to drink water. And this simply means that those who claim that they brought Fubara as governor of Rivers State ought to allow him be his own man, a cartel that was to pull the strings from behind the scene. So that's the bottom line as we discuss this unfortunate unfolding development in rivers. But what is evident here is we have faith that in the long run, issues will simmer down, and that the rivers people who ought to be the ultimate beneficiaries of government will be the ones to determine in which direction this state will pull. And the fact that they seem to be throwing their weight behind Fubara means like that the rivers people do not want a puppet governor. They want a governor who can take decisions. They want a governor who empathizes with them. They want a governor who appreciates the place of the people, who puts the people first. And I think they found such a man in Fubara.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit more about Dagogo, and his new role. Sim Fubara yesterday made, statements, and of course, seems to be giving a go-ahead for the probing of the last 8 years of Nyesom Wike as governor of the state. So let's get your thoughts on that also. Is this a good sign, or does this, mean more chaos in the Rivers political landscape?
I think that the one who has committed no offense has no reason to fear. If the intention of the government at this time is to come clean with what may have transpired in the past, then I don't see anything wrong with government instituting an inquiry, to say, for example, what transpired under the Wike years. But I believe that perhaps this is the reaction to events that are playing out in the state, which is allegedly sponsored by the minister. And we cannot be talking about impeachment so early in their life or this administration when all hands ought to be on deck, to ensure that we take Rivers State to the next level. So my take is, well, it's a delicate situation. If we need to be talking about the past, if we need to be talking about probing a governor. And as we know, Rivers State has been free from EFCC visits. The reason is the injunction which previous governments in Rivers State were able to acquire. And if we open the gateway for probes at this time, I think the state will be probably exposing this underbelly, and that may not be right at this time. But we talk in terms of accountability. We talk in terms of records, and if the similar Fubara administration figures that there is something that probably transpired in the last 8 years that deserves public attention, public scrutiny, then so be it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people would agree with that. But of course, there's the aspect where Sim Fubara was part of that government. So, if he's going to be probing the affairs of that government, then of course he might be roping himself into, that whole probe as well. How do you think that would play out? And of course, the invitation of the EFCC back into River State political, conversation. If it's for the best of the people of River State to know if they have billions of naira that were diverted into private pockets, then would River State be all for it?
Oh, well, I don't see why the people who elected these leaders cannot have information on their activities. And be it as it may, what this means clearly is going forward that leaders who get into the saddle must be careful what they do while in office. And the picture I see is one which can, in the long run, enhance transparency in government.
As for now, tempers are high. All the parties to the Rivers conflict are in the trenches at this time. And of course, all of the options are on the table, given what is transferring the state. And my take is that perhaps it's time to show a little bit of restraint. It's time to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is Rivers State and its interests. Whether our leaders like it or not, the ones who suffer from this fight are the ordinary Rivers people who have aspirations, yearnings, and who think that government should be a government that works for all. As we speak, interesting things that are going on here in Rivers State in terms of governance. And I think that what is critical at this point is to allow governance to take place.
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like governance has any place to take, because right now politics is taking the order of the day. Let's talk about the president and his possible role in all of this conflict. The national dailies yesterday reflected the statement of the side of the presidency when they said they will not take any sides in the conflict going on in Rivers State. How do you analyze the initial intervention of the presidency with the peace accord? Do you see that as taking sides, and do you think that the presidency has any role to play in all of this conflict in ensuring that some sense of normalcy and governance returns to Rivers State?
I think at the time, quite a lot of Nigerians hailed the intervention of the president. The reason being that if a state in this country is in trouble, it means that Nigeria is in trouble. And a lot of people who say when Rivers sneezes, the rest of the country catches cold. Now, insofar as I'm concerned, I think that the president did the right thing when he intervened in the first crisis and tried to bring about some level of peace in the state. The 8-point agenda was clear, and to a large extent it was complied with. But as you know, circumstances here on ground have tended in some way to dismantle whatever gains that we could have had from the deal that the president did as a statesman. And you know that quite a lot of people have said that the president did not need to interfere. And while some insist that what took place was a political solution, others argue that what happened was not in favor of the Constitution at all, because some of the issues that are involved in this crisis are constitutional, and but the good story, as I see it, is that the presidency has vowed not to be involved. Its neutrality is central, as we make progress. And I think that, frankly, this should not be seen as an attempt by the president to wash his hands off Rivers State. No, Rivers is a critical state, and I'm certain that the presidency is aware of this. And hoping perhaps that a homegrown solution sought by the Rivers people, for the Rivers people, would eventually take preeminence.
Yeah. You also share your thoughts, on, Iboroma Dagogo. What do you know, or what do we know about him? And of course, what does his emergence as the Attorney General in Rivers State bring? Is there any details, that we may not be aware of, that, has made him the choice, for that position? And also the House of Assembly, and those who might be, from what it seems, have lost their seat in the House of Assembly. What's their plan next? Are they going to be fighting to retain those seats, or they need to go? Like this, the Constitution says, go contest. Sorry.
Well, as you know, there are arguments over what should be. Some say the constitutional provision regarding the movement of elected lawmakers from the platform of the party that they steal the election on to another party is something that the Constitution does not accept. And in other words, those who are arguing along these lines say it is self-executing, because it's very clear that if there is no division and side to pitch camp elsewhere, then the right thing to do will be to abdicate their seats. As you know, in this country, regardless of the position that the Supreme Court has already taken on issues like this, there are still people who want to test the law, who, as much as possible, think there could be new interpretations in the light of evolving developments. Now, not much is known about the Attorney General who had just come on board. That's because he's not a politician, and he's a professional. And I don't think that among the political class here in Rivers State, his name, when came through, took quite a lot of people by surprise. But what is clear here is that he is competent. What is clear here is that FUBARA intends to bring in professionals, not the usual hardcore politicians who have been in charge of departments of government. In other words, these technocrats, these bureaucrats that are likely to be on board going forward will bring something new on the table. And note that what is critical at this point is that we seek a government that works, and we want to work with people who have something to offer, people who do what they can to add some value, to what is going on here in the system.
Seeking a government that works with all these distractions, how does the governor plan to achieve anything? I mean, we're almost a year, after inauguration. When does work actually start? And I mean, does Sim Fubara even does he have a clear roadmap on what he hopes to achieve for Rivers State before we even start talking about, being able to achieve these things? Because at this point, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who may love the PDP in Rivers State, but they would also argue that the PDP hasn't really taken the state very far because of the politics that takes center stage in Rivers State instead of governance.
I don't think that is correct. If you have followed Rivers history, you will find that issues like we have on our hands now are nothing new. We've always had people who disagree. We've always had people who have come to a point of agreement. The government has continued to move. I want to say that right from the days of Dr. Peter Odili up to this time, PDP has offered leadership to Rivers people. And from one stage onto the other, there have been progressively attainments that people can see. Now, the argument that FUBARA probably hasn't hit the ground running is not correct, because even here, regardless of the diversion, the distraction, the governor is on course in terms of project delivery. And this morning, for example, now that they are kickstarting the first year in office anniversary, a project will be commissioned at Eleme. So, and that's the Alete Bubu Echo Road, which is part of the Old Bori Road. And there are other projects that have been earmarked for commissioning. If you take this into consideration, it would be difficult to say that the governor has no agenda. He does have an agenda. He made promises while campaigning for office, and he's moving gradually to fulfill them. If we are to come to Rivers State, you will see how much the government has done in terms of the kind of equipment that they're providing in the health sector. And we are beginning to move in the direction of agriculture too. And only recently, soft loans were given to entrepreneurs in rivers. And of course, other Nigerians who live in our midst will benefit too. But that shows to some extent that the governor is on the right path. This man had said that we were going to create industrial gas hubs. We are going to create industrial hubs. And at this time, we are talking about an economic summit that will look at the resources that are available in the state in an attempt to enhance the diversification of our economy. We are even talking about a youth summit that draws strong attention to the digital economy and then release the latent energy that the youths of this great state have. And thanks for the not too young to run law, the governor that we have is young, experienced, and willing to work for the benefit of the Rivers people. And his argument is at all times, Rivers' interest must be placed first.
Okay, I think my final question would be, what would you say are the immediate steps that need to be taken? First, for the new Commissioner for Justice, what would you say are the necessary next steps that should be taken to move the state forward?
Of course, quite frankly, you know the role that law plays in society. It's part of all efforts that man has made over time to ensure order, to ensure some minimum respect for one another, and then ensure that all the institutions that have been created, be they democratic and economic, are working in synergy. So I believe that making sure that the laws of River State are obeyed, making sure that those laws are such that they can encourage investors to put their money here in this state, and making sure that some of these issues, these arguments that are occupying center stage, such as the defection of lawmakers who stepped in a given direction when there was no clear division addressed. So I think he has a workload. As you know, people are talking about public-private partnerships, and you need the law, an experienced hand to do all of this. And the good thing is that Iboroma is a senior advocate of Nigeria who is relatively unknown to politics, and I'm certain that as a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, he understands what private enterprise means, not just to the individual, but to the state. And my thinking, very clearly, is that he will be coming to the table with something new.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you very much. All of these conversations are really for the best in Rivers State. We hope that, everyone who is involved understands, that the people of Rivers State are the most important, in these conversations, not political interests. We'll look forward to speaking with you again, and of course, we'll see how the next couple of days goes. It feels like every, couple of hours there's a new twist and a new turn in the Rivers State conversations, but we'd like to speak with you again. Thank you very much for your time once again.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. If you're just joining us, we've had a very interesting past hour here on Breakfast Central. Let's share with you what we've spoken about and also what comes up next.
President Tinubu launches education campaign. This was launched in 15 different countries, talking about gender equality, health, education, and the like. Rivers Assembly affirms Dagogo as Commissioner for Justice, and it will be interesting to see how this impacts the state. And EFCC set to arraign Emefiele over Naira redesign policy. We talked about this. as well as the impact that the redesign policy had on Nigerians. Well, let's share what's coming up in the next hour.
In the second half, Peter Obi meets Atiku Saraki over economic woes. And also, what Nigerians are saying. We share with you a cross-section of the comments we find on social media and also the newspaper front pages. What are the major stories making headlines across Nigeria today? Remember to be a part of that conversation. Welcome back. It's time to find out what the big stories are making headlines across the newspapers this morning. Remember, you can be a part of that conversation. The phone lines will be on your screen. Quickly join us. Share your thoughts with us, no matter how far-reaching they might be, as quickly as possible also. We're going to be joined by the publisher of the niche newspaper, Amechi Kechuku. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Always my pleasure, sir.
Good to have you.
Olive, how are you?
I'm not fine, no. But let's not bring our problems on national television.
Well, but you are not looking radiant as ever.
Exactly.
No, because I'm having problems with electricity. I don't know which band I am, whether it's band Y. If there's any band like that.
Yeah, abandoned. All right. Let's get through the newspapers this morning. Start with this Nigeria, see what we can find over there. It says the tariff hike, Labour pickets NERC, TCN headquarters and branches nationwide. Demands complete reversal, vows not to retreat, says privatization in power sector, colossal failure. 400 detainees languishing in Kano Correctional Center, says CP. Abuja farmers hail Wike's infrastructure development. Interesting. NSCDC uncovers 2 illegal pipeline connection points in Rivers State. And we can also see Tinubu mandates MDAs to procure CNG-powered vehicles. NDLA intercepts 3 trailer loads of opioids, seizes 3.5 million naira pills, 344,000 codeine bottles. And of course, you can see a picture there of Joe Ajero, and of course, other members of the NLC while they were on their campaign yesterday in the FCT.
All right, let's look at the Daily Trust newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Trust, terrorists kill 5 soldiers, many villagers in Katsina, raise houses, military silent. Tariff hike, Labour insists on reversal, pickets NERC disclose offices. We also have there, Fubara hints at probing Wike's administration, 3 killed as rival gangs clash in Kano. Tinubu directs MDAs to buy CNG-powered vehicles. That's an interesting one there. Mega party talks resurface as Obi visits Atiku Lamido Saraki. Federal government plans productivity-based wage system for workers. Slain FIRS official planning marriage in December. I don't understand. Oh my goodness. It's just hitting me. The slain FIRS official was planning to get married in December. Oh, wow. This is sad. Anyway, that's all we have on the front page of the Daily Trust.
We'll probably kick off with this 2 first, and let's see what we can. I think the first one there is the tariff hike, Labour picketing NERC and TCN headquarters. We spoke with a player in the power sector yesterday morning, and his argument was completely different. He said Labour is not focusing on the right things. That Labour should, not. Labour has never complained when the power sector, drivers and players, had always been struggling all this while with insane levels of debt, not being able to raise money to fund their businesses, and of course, the different challenges that they've had with the power sector, that Labour ignored them. But now that they've decided, that maybe they would need to increase tariffs, to be able to survive the economic challenges, the Labour is going against them. So let's quickly get your thoughts on Joe Ajero, and of course, his demand for a complete reversal of the tariff hike.
Well, I think the NLC is doing what it ought to do. It is a labor movement, and it should protect the average Nigerian worker. The truth of the matter is that, look, Nigerians are overburdened by the policies of the Tinubu administration. And you can't go from subsidy is gone in your inaugural speech to floating of the naira, to increase in electricity tariff, and if not that Nigerians started shouting, again, we would have been saddled with the so-called cybersecurity levy.
Yep.
And other things. And this is a country where, don't forget, minimum wage is still 30,000 naira. The president has been gaming the system. On May 1st, he told us that he had unilaterally, and this is a man who set up a tripartite committee to negotiate new wage. And unilaterally, you say you have increased wage. Where is it? Who has been paid? Who has not been paid? So Nigerians are overburdened. And coming back to the power sector, what you said, a player in the industry said, okay, the electricity, this thing was privatized. What is the sense of a privatization? That people should come into it with their own private money.
Yeah.
You say you are burdened by debt and all that. How should that be the problem of the people? In any case, what value have you added since the privatization? We are still struggling with 3,500 megawatts of electricity. Nothing has been added. All the discos and every other person that bought into the power sector, they have not added a kilo to what is going on there. So I don't understand. Like Labour said, I think the idea of the privatization in the first place, the idea may not be wrong, but what we came out with in the name of privatization is simply a farce. And something must be done. I don't know how fast that is going to be done, but something must be done to rescue the electricity industry from the doldrums where it is now. How can a country with a population of over 200 million people be struggling with 3,500, 4,000 megawatts of electricity every day? And okay, now you said you have categorized consumers into bands. You have band A, you have... Most people are still complaining, even those that have been classified to be in band A, that they don't enjoy
20 hours electricity as
the 20 hours electricity that was promised. So all this is to simply continue taxing the people, collecting money without delivering service. So I don't know how far Labour can go. What is it they can achieve? Because there seems to be a conspiracy going on right now to tax the common man out of existence.
Yeah.
I don't know how it will end, but what is going on in every other country, I think I've said it here many times, subsidy, energy subsidy is a national security issue. And the people that are telling you to remove all these IMF, all these Bretton Woods institutions that are advising over the weekend, I think it was IMF that was insisting that the tariff or the subsidy should be completely removed, even as Nigerians are crying. But in those countries as Germany, in Europe and America, energy subsidy, I tell people, Americans are going to vote on, I think, November 4th. If Biden does as much as increasing the price of gas by 1 cent, he's likely to lose that election. That is how far-reaching and that is how important people take energy subsidy. If there is anything that is going to make the price of gas go up, America goes into its strategic reserves to make sure that it pushes the prices down. So why would Nigeria, an oil-producing country, insist that there can never be any energy subsidy? What are you doing to cushion the effect on the people? All these years we've been lied to, the low pump price of petrol only favors the rich. But we've seen, in reality, that it is not true. The poor masses, because all these things are interdependent. When you remove subsidy on petrol, the average man is going to go on transportation. Nothing has been done. You've not provided mass transit, and people are going to commute to work. The average Nigerian spends way beyond his income in order to enjoy some reasonable level of comfort in energy supply. We can't continue that way. We can't continue that way. Government must be creative and find means of raising money other than taxing already overburdened citizens. Otherwise, something will give sooner than later.
All right. Let's get, I mean, we need to rush through.
Yeah,
It's 8:18
are we going
already.
to the Daily Trust now?
Yeah, we could just pick on the Fubara story.
But before the Fubara, okay, while we talk about the Fubara story, I think right after then we'll talk about Tinubu ordering CNG, and the importance of that. But yeah, let's touch on the Fubara story.
Well, I think it was also last week, right here, I said that, look, the only way to deal with a bully is to fight back. Wike is a bully. And the only way Fubara can deal with him is to fight back. Look, what Fubara said yesterday is instructive, and I agree with him. He said when this crisis started that he asked for patience because he thought it was a family affair which could be resolved within the family. But he has found out ever since that there is no easy way out of this crisis, because those who are bent on sitting him are not giving any inch. Look, I don't know why Nigerian politicians don't learn, and Wike should have learned. Since 1999, governors in Nigeria are very powerful. So that even if you make a goat, or even if you make your house boy the governor, the very moment he is sworn in, the best thing to do is to stay away. You've done the best you can. And we have instances everywhere. In Enugu, we had former Governor Chimaroke Nnamani versus Sullivan. Even in Edo State, Obaseki, Oshomole. Wike should have known. Wike literally ran Amechi out of.
I mean, he's had a long history, where he understands the power that he has.
Yeah.
And I'm
River
guessing.
State. Wike was Amechi's chief of staff. Perhaps you have forgotten. It was Amechi who nominated Wike to Abuja as a minister. Yet he fought Amechi. So he should have known that there is no way you're going to micromanage a governor. But beyond that, look, Osa, I've always argued with people who say we are making progress in this country. We are not, particularly politically. Democracy, if we go by the classical definition of the former US president, Abraham Lincoln, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Here we claim to have a democracy that has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with the people. And that is why a former Governor Wike will come out to say, I made Fubara governor. How can you make somebody governor? But the truth of the matter is that without Wike, Fubara wouldn't have been governor.
I mean, this is the same Wike that clips have emerged of him saying that when he leaves office, he will not interfere with governance, but now this is happening. So do you have fears that we might see a repeat of this? Should Fubara win this battle? Because they say that, I mean, it's a two-part question, but I'm just going to sum it into one. some have said that Fubara is not even the right person to fight the structure because it is the same structure that brought him into office, and that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands, that he doesn't completely have clean hands in this case. And, you know, we've also seen that Nyesom Wike, who fought this structure, is now trying to institute the same structure he kicked against. Do you have fears that Siminalayi Fubara, if he should win this battle, will then turn out to want to also install another governor in Rivers State? And do you think that he's the right person, that he has a great standing to be able to counter Nyesom Wike?
I don't see how Fubara won't win this war. Like I said earlier, we're talking about the governors who have immense powers. Don't forget that even when a powerful president like Obasanjo wanted to unseat Chris Ngige in Anambra State in those days, he failed. Governors are powerful, and governors from Rivers State are even much more because of the resources they control. The battle for the soul of Rivers State has nothing to do with the people of Rivers State. It is about who controls the resources of Rivers State. Wike thought that even as an ex-governor, he should be able to continue making the authoritative allocation of the collective values of the people of Rivers State. Fubara is saying, I am the man on the seat right now. At the end of the day, this is my tenure, and I'm going to be held responsible for what happens during my tenure. And therefore, I must be in a position to decide what happens. If Wike was the wise man he claims to be, having successfully succeeded in gaming the system, because that's what our politicians do, they game the system and they corrupt our democracy. Having succeeded in gaming the system and installing the man he thought was his stooge as the governor, and having found out within a couple of months that, hey, I may have made a mistake. This man I thought was the weakest link that I could hold on to and say that this man is not as weak as I thought. The best thing would have been to take a walk. The structure you are talking about, for crying out loud, you use the resources of Rivers State to set up this structure. It was not his money. And Wike, look, let's be sincere about all this. Governor Nyesom Wike has not done anything all his adult life, all his postgraduate life, except politics and government. From being local government chairman in Obiakpo local government, to being chief of staff to Rotimi Amechi, to being minister, to being governor, to being minister again. So all he has, he got from the system. He is unlike a P2B, now for instance, or some governors that we know who were already into business and who made so much money, so that whatever it is that they got out of office became an added thing. So all the structure you said you claim to have built, you use Rivers State money. And how can you build a structure for yourself that has nothing to do with the welfare of the people of Rivers State? Because if all this were to be a battle for the interest, the welfare, the security, which is the primary purpose of government anywhere, protection of the welfare and security of the people. So if all this battle in Rivers is in furtherance of the welfare and security of the people, nobody would raise eyebrows. And we wouldn't have been in this quagmire we are right now. It has nothing to do with the people. So I don't see how Fubara won't win He has enough resources to levy this war.
Yeah, the conversation about probing Wike's government, is that, maybe another trick, out of his game plan now? Is this one of the things that we've been expecting to see while all the chaos was brewing?
Eventually, it will get to that level. Don't forget, Wike also probed Amechi. What comes around goes around. The probing Wike, I don't know how Fubara is going to do that. Don't forget, Fubara was the accountant general of the state under Wike. So most of the things, Fubara knows where the dead bodies are buried. And I don't see him coming out clean.
Immunity covers him, at least for now.
In any probe. Yes, immunity covers him. In the 8 years, in the 4 years, at least he will be there as governor of Rivers State. I don't see why he wouldn't also win another 4 years. That's the way they roll. But the truth of the matter is that there is no way any probe of Wike. Don't forget that EFCC was also probing Fubara for about 400 and something billion naira before Wike took him as his candidate and, as he claimed, made him governor of Rivers State willy-nilly. A probe of Wike will be a probe of Fubara himself. But like you said, he enjoys immunity. Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution as amended covers him for now. But there is no way you probe Wike that nothing comes back to Fubara, because he was there and he knows what the issues are. But if Wike continues the way he's going, Fubara will not have any other choice than to ask questions how he also governed Rivers State in 8 years.
All right. I think my final story on the Daily Trust is the headline there that reads, Tinubu directs MDAs to buy CNG-powered vehicles. So we've seen reports on how this is in furtherance of Tinubu's agenda to, ensure that we have clean energy. But let's take this call from Dr. Gary from Abuja. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please go ahead with your comment.
Please, my comment is that Obara cannot prove Wike, the former governor. Mind you, Obara was hiding in the government house because of EFCC that time. He should not even come out that time. EFCC was looking for him and he could not be able to come out. So how can he prove Wike while he was even hiding himself before EFCC that time while he was accountant general? EFCC sent a letter and he was hiding in the government house. So how can he prove him? How?
Thanks for calling, Dr. Garu. I think a lot of people, share similar thoughts. And like you've said, a probe of Nyesom Wike is also a probe of, Sim Fubara. So we'll see how it goes. If the immunity is, what he hopes to cover himself while these conversations are going. But, it's mostly just, everybody. I said a couple of days ago that every day Sim Fubara goes to sleep, he wakes up thinking about how to deflect from the new arrows that are sent his way, through the different factions or pro-Wike factions, here and there. And so this, for me, is just another, stroke, that has been thrown. Good morning, Elder David. Elder David, can you hear us? David?
All right, please try to call. We're hoping we can take. Let's quickly take this story. Tinubu directs MDAs to buy CNG-powered vehicles, and of course, you chuckled. Tell us, is this a good part? In fact, part of the directive we hear is that they should start looking for how to convert their current generators and petrol-powered generators and vehicles into CNG. So let's quickly hear from Elder David before you react to that story. Hello, Elder David. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Ma. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Please, in politics, there's godfatherism. Anybody tells you that is telling lies. There's nobody that gets to a position that somebody will not support, either collectively or individually. Wike is the hero, and I respect him. The beginning of the end, mark it down. Let that young man go and actually apologize to Wike, because Wike used people to lift him to where he is. And those people he used to lift him are the ones protesting today. And he should know that. And he should be careful. It has never happened in the history of this country, where somebody has not spent a year, you are demolishing public buildings. You want to demolish such a very high-class quarters because of disagreement? Politics is a complete resolution. We can disagree and agree with ourselves. And when we were looking for that position, it's the same people we can use. And nobody is God. When we say divine favor from God, it's through human being you get it. When Oshimole himself won his election, in those days was ring out by Abasojo at that time, in Osun State, in Ondo State, in Ekiti State, it was this present president today that make them to regain their freedom. And that becomes their godfather. And Oshimole bring in the man they call Obaseki. And he betray him. Look at Obaseki today, it's already out. Whether you like it or not, it will be defeated in those states.
And I guess we'll find out in time. Thank you very much, Elder David, for calling. If you can quickly react to this, so we can quickly touch that story as well.
Yes, now before we come to that, it is sentiments like that made by Elder David now. That is why we are where we are. That is why we are not making progress in this so-called democracy. Look, there's a difference between helping people to attain their political aspirations and one man claiming, I made him governor.
What then is democracy?
We must begin to practice democracy in the way it ought to be practiced. People help others to achieve their aspirations politically. But you can't have a system where only one man appropriates to himself the right to appropriates the responsibility of the entire citizens in a democracy. And we have people who are elders coming on television to justify.
Well, let's see if we have Tony Eze, who may feel differently about that. Good morning, Tony Eze. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, please go ahead. Good morning.
Thank you. I think the case between Fubara and Wike has given Nigeria good and it's good like that. You know that I didn't do.
Sorry about that.
Do reach back. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so Nigerians must be prepared to practice democracy if that is what we claim that we're going to practice. This idea of only one man playing God, and it's not only Wike. We have seen it over and over again. I don't think that is the idea of democracy. If what makes Wike a hero is that in 2023, he stopped every other political party from even campaigning in Rivers State.
Yes.
He shut out every other aspirant within PDP for this same Fubara. If that is what makes him a hero, I am sorry. Nigeria cannot make progress with mindsets like that. But Olive, now coming to the CNG cars and the president's directive, I don't even know what to say. But I don't think that is the solution to the problems. that we are facing. Yes, we all need green energy, but hey, is the president also going to convert all the cars in the presidential fleet now to CNG?
Maybe that's a plan for them to do, in the nearest future. Let's quickly hear from Paul Ebonyi State. I believe Paul calling from Ebonyi State. I think this might be our last caller. Hello, Paul. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead. Okay.
Right. So is he going to convert all those things? I think we are simply chasing shadows. The president and his team, they have not given an indication that they appreciate the enormity of the problems we have. And all these distractions, because that's what I will call it, they are mere distractions. I don't see how they are going to help in solving the problems at hand. Let's face what the issues are. And we have energy crisis in the country right now. How do we solve it? I don't think it is by ordering ministries, departments and agencies of government to buy the CNG cars. In any case, I thought that these vehicles have been bought since the beginning of the year. We are in April now.
All right.
We are in May now.
Yeah, there's a story we seem to have skipped, and that is the mega party talks resurfacing as Obi and Atiku, Lamido, Saraki, all of them met, yesterday. There's more of those conversations. I've seen a write-up, yes, on the Daily Trust. I saw, a response from a representative of Peter Obi, I believe, who said that the major goal right now, it is our speculations about the mergers, but, I think I've seen a few people say that the major goal right now is, removing the APC from government, regardless of what it takes. But what are your thoughts, as quickly as possible when you see these possibilities?
I think this democracy, for whatever it is worth, should be grateful to Peter Obi. Because for the first time, we are seeing, particularly, what happens before now is that people come, hijack the tickets of their political parties, run for office, fail, and they disappear, only to reappear in 4 years. Peter Obi seems to be redefining what it means to be an opposition leader, engaging the government, criticizing what ought to be criticized, and praising the government when they do the right thing. So, going yesterday to see Atiku, Saraki, and Sule Lamido, I think the opposition in this country, if we must be sincere to ourselves, they need to start talking. The opposition cannot be fragmented and still hope that they can dislodge a party as powerful as the APC. So they didn't tell us that all these meetings we are held behind closed doors yesterday. So we don't have the privilege. In fact, it was I was sent the picture and a 2-paragraph statement by SA social media to Sule Lamido yesterday, Mansu, when that meeting took place. So we don't have the privilege right now of knowing what the discussions
what the details are.
But whatever they are, I think it is a good move, because without a virile opposition,
it's going to be an impossible task.
It's going to be an impossible task, and the government may even derail. So we need the opposition to keep the government on its toes. Nigeria will be better for it.
All right. Mr. Michi, thank you very much, as always, for joining us and for sharing your thoughts with us on topical issues making headlines this morning. We wish, of course, that we improve the conversations that we have concerning our country. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll share with you what Nigerians are saying, and that comes up right next.
Welcome. This is where we find what Nigerians are saying on social media about some of the biggest stories here in Nigeria. And our first story is godfatherism, taking a look at the Rivers case study. It would seem that the governor of Rivers State, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, has made another move in the chess game that is governance, or would I say politics, in Rivers State, as he has just appointed a new Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General for Rivers State, and that is, of course, the person of Dagogo Israel Iboroma. Now, there have been a number of criticisms that have arisen, against him, and some who have firmly supported the governor. So it's just mixed reactions, some for him, some against him, wondering how exactly is this drama between Nyesom Wike, who is the former governor of the state, and Siminalayi Fubara, who is the current governor of the state, and how is it going to pan out? Nigerians have reacted on X. Let's look at their tweets. And the first tweet this morning, let's see, it says, Ashiru Pandum says, we are struggling to build a nation where the youths would be employed on merit, not godfatherism. All right? The next tweet we have, this is why politics of godfatherism must be stopped. Just look at what is happening in Rivers State. The disagreement between the father and son is costing the state a lot. Meanwhile, in Abia State, Alex Oti is moving like a one-man squad without any fear of the godfather. And we have from Abi, okay, do so for me, says, Wike once said that if godfatherism worked in Lagos State, it won't work in Rivers. He started the slogan, Edo no be Lagos, against Oshiomhole and Tinubu. He advised Ambode to cross carpet to PDP and fight his godfather. Today, he wants to be godfather of Rivers State, and that's what he had to say. Now, Suleiman says, as a politician, I can never side a Fubara against a Wike. This is not about supporting godfatherism. It's about loyalty to those who risk everything to put you into office. Politics is not about typing words on social media. You have to get involved to understand the pain. And J. Jam says, right before our eyes, Obaseki, who prides himself as one who fought godfatherism, is fighting tooth and nail, crushing everyone in sight just to become what he fought against. He won't even spare the sacredness of the stool of the Oba of Benin. This is, of course, in reference to what's happening in Edo State, because we see that happening in different parts of the country. But let's still come back to Rivers State. I'm not a fan of Wike and all his godfatherism shenanigans, but I can tell you this for free, that Fubara's days as a Rivers State governor is numbered. He's fighting a lost battle, he says. Let's look at another tweet. This one is from Ishola Omwabike, and the next one is from Chukson Ruli, I beg your pardon. I like what Fubara is doing in Rivers to fight godfatherism, but I won't be surprised if he himself also tries to be a godfather after his tenure as governor. This is why Nigeria needs strong institutions and not strong men. Now, that's a very valid point there, because we saw the same thing. A number of people said Nyesom Wike fought his quote-unquote godfather, and now, even though he had said that he would not interfere with governance after his time in office expires, we're seeing that play out differently. So what is to say that if Fubara comes out winning this battle, that he will not replicate the same challenge? Governor Sibora will spend the next 3 years fighting Wike and not doing what he was elected to do. This is why godfatherism is a disease. Rivers State certainly deserves better than this. And we want to find out what your thoughts are. How do you think this will pan out? Some say it's godfatherism. Others say it's loyalty. What do you say it is? Let us know on Twitter at News Central TV. Now let's move to our next story as we still see what Nigerians are saying. There was a visit, of course, and this time around we had Governor Peter Obi making some very interesting visits, and there have been reactions to these visits. We did see that there was a visit to Saraki. There are pictures of him, I beg your pardon, and Dr. Sule Lamido, who, of course, it emerged on social media. There have been a number of people who have shown their reactions to it. Some people think it's maybe something cooking and something brewing. There are others who just think, nah, it's not a big deal. But let's see what some of the tweets we have this morning are saying regarding this story. To approach all right, this is from N500m. So it says, to approach Atiku, he strategically reached out to Sule Lamido first, who serves as Atiku's loyal man. Peter Obi apologized to Atiku for his role as the SPV, with the LP trying to demonstrate a sense of accountability. Atiku, however, is taking a measured approach in this situation, using a long spoon to maintain distance. Let's look at others. Lawrence Ayokoro, Peter Obi meets ex-governor of Jigawa and former minister Dr. Sule Lamido. Peter Obi is definitely cooking something, and I'm 100% loving the aroma. He says, politics isn't a business of emotions and sentiments. Chief Adam, Dr. Sule Lamido, and His Excellency Peter Obi, what's cooking? We don't know. We can only wait to find out what exactly is cooking. J Jam also says, we all know Sule Lamido has never left PDP since inception. Is Peter Obi planning to seek refuge in PDP after Labour Party appears to be ejecting him? Labour Party, are you ejecting Governor Peter Obi? Or His Excellency Peter Obi? PDP boys go now begin sing their usual tune. Peter Obi is coming back. Coming back to where? Make una use bill in Chesam again. That's what Balatik is asking. And we'll take another tweet. Abdulaziz Naibi Abubakar says, do you think Peter Obi is planning to rejoin PDP? Because visiting His Excellency Atiku Abubakar and Babasule Lamido at the same day isn't normal in Nigeria's politics. He, of course, thinks that there's something really cooking and that there's more to it than meets the eye. And our final tweet from Hamlet says, today he met Atiku Abubakar and Sule Lamido. I don't know whatever thing he's nurturing with them. But what I'm sure is that if he gets the backing of the public, we'll have the backing of INEC and courts. Will we have the backing of INEC and courts? That's something that I'm sure that Hamlet is wondering. But what are you thinking? Do you think that is just a political visit, a courtesy visit, or is there something cooking? Again, let us know on Twitter at News Central TV. And these are some of the stories that you have reacted to on What Nigerians Are Saying.
There you have it, what Nigerians are saying in reaction to, of course, some of the major political conversations that are going on across Nigeria today. In Rivers State, and of course, the Peter Obi, Atiku, and Saraki meeting. Of course, those are all just still speculations. There's nothing concrete as to what may have happened in that meeting. And as we await details, people can speculate based on what they want and what they expect to happen. But let's share with you what comes up later today on News Central Television. Yes, Business Edge coming your way at 11 a.m. West African time, and News Central now at noon at 12 p.m. West African time. And also one slot much later at 5 p.m. West African time. And this is where we say goodbye. Thank you very much for being with us this Tuesday morning on Breakfast Central. And of course, for those who called and we're part of the conversation, we appreciate you. Remember to keep your calls coming in every morning. That's from 8 a.m. As we, of course, x-ray these stories across the country. See you tomorrow morning. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa.
And I am Olive Emodi. Have a good day.